Yeah, I think we don't do well with it. Uh, if we're looking at the population, the statistics, they say 20% of US adults have experienced or will experience a mental health episode within the next year. And so, like anything else, if we would experience a medical condition, we probably should have that addressed. But sadly, as you mentioned, Seth, mental health does have a stigma, a strong stigma with men because, we've been told real men don't cry, just rub some dirt in it. Don't stop and ask for directions. All of the classic cliches that we try to jam into our young men that are developing. And then when they experience that, the reality is that they have a finite capacity, whether that's physical or emotional or mental. And we find out that we are beyond our capacity. One, we feel shame because we don't feel like we can ask for those things. And then secondly is because other men don't come forward and tell their stories. We don't even know where to start to get those issues addressed. Mhm. Ooh, well, isn't our defined role to be protector and guardian? And we don't have time to deal with our issues. We're supposed to kind of sit back and be the protector of what's entrusted to us. And so, whether that's property or people. So, we're not really even supposed to focus then on us. And so, I guess for me is, you know, I appreciate Seth. What needs to happen between men is what happened between you and I, where we just kind of talk about our stories and talk about how to address our wellness. I'm not ashamed to say that I've participated in therapy. I think it's a good experience because, as I said earlier, is I have a limited capacity, and when things happen to me that are beyond my control and beyond my ability to have resources available to address them. And I don't want to make it spiritual, but I within myself am not enough to address everything that life throws at me. And I believe that we are designed to be social and to be within community. And I think regardless if you have a faith tilt or if you just study, Abraham Maslow, like we need to belong. And so, yeah, I just think that's a long stigma that's been held with men for many, many generations. Well, I mean, one of the things that you said, Seth, that jumps out to me is yes, we do have a very large incarceration rate for males. One is we're more prone to commit violent acts. That's one of the reasons why death by suicide is higher is because men typically will choose more lethal means. So not cuts on the wrist or a mouthful of pills. It's step out in front of something that would lead to an ultimate demise. But the incarceration again, and looking at it through a diversity lens too, is it is concerning. Why is one of the largest populations of our penitentiaries African American men? And while I think there's a lot of social cues to that that could explain partial parts of it, I think one of the leading parts is that in that community, you have a lot of absent fathers. You have a lot of community members and strong women raising young men, which is great and fantastic, but you cannot deny the stats. There is a lower male, an incident of males being in the house for the long run to show young men what it is to be a real man. And I'm not saying aggressive, authoritative. I'm saying being responsible, being socially conscious, being realizing your words have power, learning how to love appropriately, conflict management, all that stuff. So go ahead. Yeah, my biggest point is I think one of the biggest things that we could do as men is mentor younger men, because many of them do not have a navigator, and we're learning by trial and error. Yeah, 100% makes sense, Seth. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and we were on the topic of why don't men enjoy romantic movies or movies about love or something like that. And I said, well, that's totally incorrect. Men love movies about love, but we're looking in the wrong direction, because one of my favorite movies is called Young Guns. It was a 90s Western movie. But I bet if we sat around as a group of men and said, what's your favorite movie? They would all have probably a similar dynamic to it. So Young Guns, Bad Boys, Saving Private Ryan, Platoon, this male camaraderie of there is an evil out there, but I got my friend that's got my back, and we're ride or die. Men love that because, quite frankly, a lot of us don't have that. We are an island, and what we are desperately looking for is a partner, not in the romantic sense, but a colleague, a confidant that's my ride or die. And that's what we need. Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, I'd probably say the most mature person in the room is going to go first. So be okay with showing you're ugly, or, I've heard people say embrace the suck. It just, life's difficult, and because you have difficulties doesn't mean that you're an incomplete person. So you might actually be going through something and you're 6 days down the road from somebody else. So I think that's one of the things that you can do, is talk about it, be encouraging, look for people in the room, look for who you can pour into. Sure, yeah. Give me a call, 217-762-5371. Check us out online, piattmhc.org. Yeah, so there's been a study for almost 15 years, I believe, that
Нахуй я сюда пришел?
conversation of ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. So those are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood between the ages of 0 to 17. So those examples would be experiencing violence, abuse, or neglect in the house, witnessing violence in the community, having a member attempt or die by suicide, substance use, mental health problems, parental separation, instability by family members being in jail or prison. So all of these really traumatic things as a child having negative mental health and future physiological harmful effects. So all of that stuff in that pre-development age, and saying that all of us have, not all of us, but 65-66% of us have at least one of those ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that we need to develop. So on the flip side of that, if that's a negative adverse childhood experience, there's actually some material that's coming out of the Oklahoma State University on the topic of what they're calling PACEs. And so PACEs actually start. That's all right, Seth. Thank you. Yes, it's 217-762-5371, or check us out online at piattmhc.org.